If you've ever had any interest in an old vintage Leupold scope, specifically the M7 series, I'm going to share a little bit of information and hopefully you'll find it helpful. The Leupold M7 series was produced from 1959 to 1963. That kind of had all the modern components of the scopes that we have today. And it had a 1-inch tube, they were nitrogen filled, the lenses were polished and coated, and it had a constantly centered reticle. Now I'm going to get back to this constantly centered reticle thing with an anomaly that I found, but I'll get back to that in just a minute. Here is a very early version of the Leupold M7 4X. You can see how the logo's arched. You can see how there's an arrow running through the M7 4X and it's pointing toward the objective end of the scope. On the end of the objective bell, there's no stampings, there's no markings, there's nothing. There's all your information right there. And you can see how the eyepiece focus has a ring here that's slightly longer than just the knurling. So it extends from here all the way to here, where later versions are basically just the width of the knurling on the ring here. When these scopes came out in 1959, they had the option of 3 different type reticles. You could have the standard crosshair, you could have a post and wire, and you could have a dot crosshair. Open up the caps. You can see your up direction, your down direction. These do not have clicks. They are just smooth turn. Here I have 2 examples of the Leupold M7. As I said earlier, there was a slight anomaly with one of these scopes that I don't have a lot of information on and cannot quite figure it out. I can show you an ad here from 1959 that shows the statement where Leupold says these were built with a constantly centered reticle. I don't know exactly how this Leupold M7 fits into the picture with the Sub B. I searched through ads from 1959 to 1963, and I found this 1962 ad that shows the M7 B series scope. I can't hardly find any information out there about this Sub B, but this Sub B is a little bit of an anomaly because when you look through here, post and wire reticle is not permanently centered. Let me adjust it and you'll see it change. Now you can clearly see it's in the lower half of the view. This one year in 1962 where I find the B series leads me to a question. Why in 1959 would you develop the permanently centered reticle and put it in your scopes, but then in 1962 reverse that and go back to a not permanently centered reticle? Unless mine is the only one, which I highly doubt. So if you're ever thinking about buying one of these Leupold M7s and you see one with the Sub B, if you're worried about a reticle being constantly centered, you may want to consider that. Now, I don't know that every Sub B model has a non-permanently centered reticle. I don't know that. As time goes on and the serial numbers go up, Leupold will completely lose the M7 4X and the arrow. All they'll have is Leupold, made in the USA, and the serial number. And what you can find on the later ones, it'll have M7 4X stamped on the objective end. And I believe that's pretty much the precursor to right when they switched over to the Leupold M8, which came out in 1964. In 1963, Leupold came out with a duplex reticle. And then in 1964, Leupold also started their gold ring standard. Here's an original Leupold M7 4X box. This is the way it would have came from the factory when you purchase it. This shows the wire and dot reticle. They're also stating nitrogen processed, fog-proof, lifetime service guarantee. Traditionally Leupold had a lifetime service guarantee and they still do partially. I have one of these scopes that are damaged and I recently sent it to Leupold and they could not repair it. So around the time when COVID began, Leupold had a custom shop where they would change reticles, work on scopes, do things. And COVID pretty much knocked that sector of their business out. So they no longer have their custom shop. I think they're trying to rebuild it, but they're no longer doing a lot of this custom work. So if you send an old scope like this back, there's a very low probability that they'll repair it for you. What they will do is offer you a new scope in its place, but you probably don't want to do that. You'd probably rather have your old scope repaired. We've still got some of the original product literature that would have came with these scopes. Fog-proof, nitrogen processed. The lenses are polished with rare earth compounds. All air glass surfaces are hard coated with the most modern high vacuum process. Service guarantee, the reticle information. The 4X was a little bit more expensive than the 3X. And then they also were showing the Vari-X, the variable power scope, which came out in 1960. I'll do a separate video on that. Well, hopefully this helped provide a little bit of information. If you're interested or you ever stumble across one of these, you'll have an idea of what you're looking at. And yeah, get one. They're very nice scopes, and they're still 100% functional today. These 4X powered scopes are very durable. These two particular ones, the glass is still very sharp. They're very functional. Just super nice collector pieces by Leupold. All right, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.